Wow, it seems every day I am submitted great anime to watch by a lot of my subscribers. Anime like Icon, Bible Black, these are anime... I'm being trolled, aren't I? Today's anime submitted by Bill Asperger may just be one of my favorite underrated anime. Coming out in 1999, Blue Gender is an anime that is mature, thoughtful, and full of quality. Let's start the show. The story of Blue Gender follows Yuji as he is woken from his cryogenic slumber. Put to sleep just a century ago to stop his illness from killing him, Yuji is frightened by the world around him. All of his friends are dead. The world he once knew is now gone. Now, these insect-like creatures have taken over the world. They feed on all kinds of matter, including humans. But to them, humans are a small source of energy, so they kill them and put them in tight cocoons to feed to their young. These creatures are called the Blue. Not exactly unique, but I'll take it. But now that Yuji is awake, he is saved by a ragtag group of soldiers from a place called Second Earth. Alright, this is getting a little fishy. He will have to not only rely on these people, but he will have to learn how to fight just as they do to survive the new hellish landscape of planet Earth. This is Blue Gender. Blue Gender is a mature story that I compare to other anime of its time. The show makes incredible effort not to muddle up the plot with tropes of the time, besides mechs. The show has a kind of Western appeal to it. There isn't a whole lot of culture shock within this show, if any at all. It feels more like an anime made in the West. Just the way the script is written doesn't exactly make me think about Japan at all, although that of course may be because I watched the excellent dub. Normally, I feel that if you close your eyes and listen, you can tell it's an anime almost immediately, but this show just seems to be written in such a way that not exactly goes against those trends, but tries to make this show better by having the dialogue be more about what time the anime is set in. This is something I greatly appreciate. People talk like they're in the apocalypse, so to see them taking a close, careful eye to it is a nice thing to see. Now, on to my favorite part of the show, when I have to explain to you viewers that I don't like romance in anime, except sometimes I do. Let me explain. I like romance in only the best context possible, meaning that if I'm watching something like High School DxD or a cheesy romance like DNA Squared, then I'm probably gonna have a bad time. Now, if I'm watching something like Berserk, for example, then that's the kind of romance I enjoy. That is what separates the wheat from the chaff and will always, for me, do it over bad romance so prominent in anime. Now let's get into why I enjoy the romance of Blue Gender, and why it's one of my favorites in anime. The characters grow naturally, and things aren't treated as a high school drama. No blushing inwardly when a character says something generic like, "You two seem like a married couple." And when that happens, and it happens one time in the show, the characters respond in a natural way to that response, which is basically, fuck off, you know nothing about me. The romance from then on escalates at a natural pace, so you won't have to wait to get those romantic kicks. It then, of course, climaxes near the end, but don't worry, it's not like some well-kept secret either. They both know their feelings for each other. It's not cringy. And to put it simply, it just doesn't treat the viewer like idiots. It's two adults acting how they want to act around one another. This isn't some sort of fairy tale or anything. You're not going to get a poor, unrealistic romance from this. In fact, the romance in this is more a vehicle for Marlene to change and grow as the episodes go on. And I'm glad it went the way it did, because having anything else would probably be a turnoff for this show. I mean, do we really need to see Yuji turning jelly at the knees at the sight of boobs? It's not the response I want from him. I'd rather have something that makes me think than some cheap parlor trick that have way outgrown their welcome and shelf life. But I want to go on a little more about how mature the story is. The show isn't afraid to make a decision about a loved character's fate often. No one is particularly safe from the proverbial sledgehammer that this show brings down on characters. No one is safe, and you'll find out when you watch. They throw no punches. This also plays into the way the characters act around each other, and this is another aspect of their world and how the script was masterfully crafted. The dynamic between male and female characters are somewhat strange. Just like the world they live in, though. The first episode, when a soldier starts groping and fondling a seemingly random woman at a control panel doing her job, well, you come to find out it's kind of normal for this to happen, and the excuse given there is, well, they want to feel alive, so they might as well get it on. This plays more into the dystopian elements of the show as well. Just from these exchanges and how these soldiers act, you understand that this so-called Second Earth is not exactly a dystopia. Another thing I want to talk about is how the characters grow. To give an example, a spoiler-free one at that, Yuji goes from this kid in Japan who is innocent to this soldier. The traits of Yuji at the beginning are completely different to the man we see at the end. It's awesome. I mean, how many anime do we have like this where the characters completely change by the end? Especially from the 90s. Blue Gender takes its time showing the growth of Yuji, but also other characters like Marlene, which I think she changes the most in the show, and in my personal opinion, she's kind of like a main character. The depth and range of this script is shown not only by what I've talked about before, but the characters really show that it's a story that has a lot of depth and range. So of course, this is from 1999, and automatically, there's just going to be some issues here. Some animations are kind of bad and just don't hold up too well. Characters walking sometimes seem more like they're floating rather than walking, and this is my biggest problem with the series, which is kind of small, but it's from the 90s, so this is what you should expect. And other than that, there are other small problems, like how at some angles characters' faces are morphed and they look ugly, which seems to happen a lot to Marlene. I enjoy the 90s style of animation a lot, though. I think in most cases you can overall agree it's one of the few eras where it retains the charm it originally had in the 90s. My favorite example to give is Berserk, DNA Squared Evangelion, and Dragon Ball. One of those is not like the other. Those shows to this day have held up in terms of their charm while still showing their wrinkles, of course. So now comparing those to this show, I mean, yeah, there's some little spots of consequences, but overall, I think it holds up fairly well even today. I think that all the characters look good. The designs are good, especially Yuji and Marlene. I think the fights are solid too, something that rivals other mecha of its time like Mobile Fighter. Yes, I still like that anime, goddammit. Blue Gender is just a series that holds up pretty well overall. Even with its faults, it can still be forgiven because of the technology of its time. Yeah, the score for the show, really freaking good. I actually have the first OST for the series, and to this day, it's a favorite of mine, and I saw this years ago, and I still listen to the score to this day. The intro and outro songs are fantastic for both English and Japanese versions, and they're both basically the same songs. The Japanese version, though, is performed by different people and is techno rock, which fits the show perfectly to a T, and the English version is kind of like a remix of that into a rock version with a driving bass and guitar riff, something you see a lot in the 90s. Hard rock. I actually prefer the English versions of the song, not because they're hard rock, even though that is a big plus and I'm a rock guy, but they're sung by Laura Bailey, who has been one of my favorite voice actors since I was a child. But other than that, those fantastic intro songs and outro songs, we also have a very competent and fun score. The song fits the scenes they're contained within and props the scenes that really need it. To me, it sounds very similar to Evangelion if it were techno rock, and that's kind of freaking awesome because the Evangelion score is also really great. Saving the best for last, and I really do mean it, the English dub is absolutely astounding for this series, at least looking at it from a 90s perspective. The whole cast is basically just the cast from Dragon Ball Z. Eric Vale voices Yuji, and Laura Bailey voices Marlene, and I could name more names like Bryce Armstrong, Christopher Sabat, and Sean Schimmel. The English dub is stacked with giants of anime voice acting, and so is the Japanese dub. And I won't go ahead and say that, this is better than the Japanese dub, because the cast is stacked there too. But I think it's safe to say it's on the level of the original, and both certainly have their strengths as you naturally would expect. I think if you're a fan of DBZ or modern anime dubs, you'll probably like this dub and prefer this to the Japanese dub. But I will say this, you can't go wrong with either. I personally prefer the English dub because these are people I have been following pretty much my whole life.
Oh, alright, I feel like watching something. What should I watch? The Bebop movie. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Let's watch the Bebop movie. Alright. Gotta get this out of here first. Rocksmith, okay, whatever, who cares about that? Alright. Open this up and... okay.
Blue Gender is an underrated gem from its era, and believe me, I could probably be proven wrong with that comment. But until that time comes, I will stand by that statement. Blue Gender is easily one of my favorite romances from this era. It uses logic, not only in its romance, but throughout the whole show. The scripts are superb, and that stands for the English syndicated version as well. The series overall is just great though, even though it does show a little bit of age when it comes to animation, and that's okay. Blue Gender is a fantastic anime series, maybe not one of the greats, but certainly a cult hit in every way. I 100% recommend Blue Gender to anybody. It's that good. Thanks everybody for coming by the channel. If you're new, click on some of these videos if you find them interesting. Also make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Like the video if you want more of this kind of content, and put down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on Blue Gender? I want to hear them. So thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.